going to introduce, or I'm going to hand over to our first provocateur, which is Silvy. Stay in your groups, because after the provocateur, we will have a discussion in your group. Each provocateur has a provocative question. And I was interested to hear about the anxiety the word provocateur provokes. That's the whole point, that we don't have some boring talk, that we have something which is stimulating and provocative and exciting, interesting, confrontational. So we're going to begin with Silvy.
Okay, I will have some technological help, which can make things smoother. So,
just make sure that it started now in this moment.
Yes.
I thought you will do it in 5 or 20 minutes.
No. Yes.
Maybe
Okay.
you can talk a little bit free and
Yes, okay. I'll just start by telling you why I chose this subject that some of you may find a little bit strange or unusual, maybe, which has to do with TA, systems, spaces, and interactions. One of the things that I found extremely interesting and got very much hooked on, and in my working with groups and with organization, was the theme that had to do with space. Space and the use of space, and what space means in terms of having the possibility of having an impact on our system and an impact on the groups we're working with. So, okay. So, I will first start by telling you why, in the course of my professional life, I have considered TA as belonging in some way to the family of the systemic approach. This was a long time ago, and what influenced me a great deal in terms of considering TA, systemic approach. I'm talking about a long time ago, more than 25 years ago, is that, as soon as we can see that on the, this is this is going to be quite long.
If you can, how far you want to go?
Yes, okay, the first slide, please. Go ahead, the second one. Okay, this is just the, okay. Because what emerged then was that TA could be considered a systemic approach in the sense that causes are not linear, but they are circular. It comes from a circular causality in the sense that the thinking is connected, the action influences the other action. Then it specifically refers to the cybernetic model, which of course we all know, so ongoing feedback in functioning. Then also the ego states model postulates that the ecosystem functions on the basis of the hypothesis of energy constancy. This was one of the things that was told to me when I was doing my first training in TA. In another way, what it means is essentially that within the ego states, the energy is constant, is just only moving from one ego state to the other. And these are things that I added along the way. Where there is complexity, a TA approach tends to use intervention focused on objectives, which are goals, so the contracting for change, etc. And also, attention is given to the usefulness of these functions in order to use them as resources for the system. And last thing, that Byrne himself demonstrated an active interest and the use of multidisciplinary approaches, which are typical of systemic approaches. I think systemic approaches tend to use whatever can be handy and tends to use knowledge from different areas. Now, if we can go on with that. One of the areas that was the interest of Byrne was the use of space in interactions among and between individuals, and he emphasized the meaning of spaces in communication, both in symbolic terms, but also in real terms. And an example of this is that he used the space diagram, as we all know, the seating diagram, and he stated specifically, you can go on until the, the end of the slide, and he explicitly stated an interest in proxemics himself, and he made several quotations about the space in interactions, and he wrote an article which in 1955, which is on Robinson Crusoe and the use of space, which is a very interesting article, mostly psychoanalytic, but it's fascinating in terms of the ideas he's hinting at. So this is one of the reasons why I got so interested in space. Also, I read Hall and Byrne quotes Hall, actually, who is the inventor of proxemics. And I'm suggesting to read TA as a systemic approach also to the interpretation of the meaning of spaces in their communicative function. Because I think that space is the most effective control device within the microphysics of power that secretly rules our lives. In fact, we are most of the time unaware of the power that space has on our life. Please go ahead. I have some pictures about this. There is a rigid spatial code of inclusion and exclusion of individuals, positioning bodies according to a peculiar logic. Each individual has his place, and each place sort of can be considered for an individual. If you look in a room, this is extremely evident, but also if you look at some picture of people in space. I thought this picture was quite interesting because the seagulls and the Japanese online in the subway are exactly with spaces between one another. Go ahead, please. So this, I'll try to do it quickly. Goal-oriented actions and communicative action create a strictly interwoven fabric of communication between us and space. Please go ahead. This is a picture taken from an organization, taken from a movie depicting an organization, and the movie was, the title of the movie was "It's So Good to Work." And in fact, this is a mobbed person who is without her space for work, that has to stay there, doing photocopies and answering to requests all the time. Now, can you see the disproportion of the space and the woman? Please go ahead. So it's the microphysics of power being enacted there. And these are, please go ahead so we can see the writings. These are examples of spaces put from an architectural point of view. Those two pictures are from an architect who is called Sotsas. Walls are not what they are, and I think we have walls all over our lives. They are also what we would like them to be: a support for hope, a protection for our present time, a safe for our memories, or even forecast of ruins to be. This is in India, and this is a cemetery, actually, in Mexico, where the living have given to their dead the hope for a happy city, a city that living people have never known. Please can go ahead. Okay, space directs automatically and unconsciously our behaviors, and so we go to an unconscious dimension in the use of space. This is an exchange, as you can see, in terms of the use of space of French people and of two Sicilian people. I had a great time taking the pictures to show that. Go ahead, please. Proxemics is a complex spatial grammar using space as a communication circuit where symbolic devices regulate distance and are used to protect our territorial reservoirs. And I think that the protection of our territorial reservoirs is a very important thing. And also the whole discussion we had before about our space, our impact, our metaphorical space, our boundaries, our physical boundaries, our metaphorical boundaries, indicate a lot about our psychological, about the psychological meanings of space in our lives. Please can you go ahead. Okay, those are two pictures. This is the metro in Tokyo. Tokyo has been a source of pictures for me. And this is in Paris, where a strike had just finished to get into the metro. Please can you go ahead. Okay, the organization of space is a function of relationships among people, and at the same time it represents them. And here there are two pictures of the boardroom and of the train station of Milan. Now, if you can perceive the boundaries of the space or the lack of boundaries, I think it's extremely interesting. Please go ahead. Okay, there is a relationship between body and space managed through cultural devices, which are structuring and structured. And we go back to the meaning of structure and structuring. And these are the last two pictures that I picked. This is a cafe in Italy. And this is a train station in Japan. Go ahead. I think there is an unconscious geometry of space which needs to be taken into consideration in designing intervention on an organizational system. And this is it. Just two things I wanted to mention to you and to indicate to you. One is my provocative question: how much do you think about spaces when you are working within an organization or designing some kind of project for the organization and within the organization? How much attention do you give to it? And how much do you use it? So this is my provocative question. And the other thing was a small video of 7 minutes and 44 minutes that I had, but I cannot retrieve it on the computer on my stick. Maybe we'll have time to show it, where this has been actually done. I'll explain in 2 minutes very quickly the experience that was done in the actual use of space. It was it's in Italy, in Florence actually, in a public health system where the sector works with drug addicts, actually, and receive the drug addicts in the psychiatric unit. The people who were in the waiting room had the habit of, while they were waiting, they did some graffiti on the walls, etc. So the psychiatrist, actually, who's a colleague of mine, decided with the group of psychologists who were working there to give a meaning to that. The idea was maybe they need some trace and they need to interact with us in a way or another. So they provided all over the space of the waiting room blackboards where the people could write. Then they focused. Throughout 4 years, they took pictures of the things that had been written, and they photocopied them and then put them, let them there in the waiting room. And it's very interesting, they made a video out of this experience. And it's very interesting because it's really subdivided into different subjects, which is fear, the therapeutic request, hope, relationships, love, etc. So it has a very interesting impact. I don't have it with me, but maybe we'll see. So.
Our task is to follow those questions. To begin maybe with those questions or what Silvy had to say in your groups until 11. And there will be some graffiti space up on the wall, which at break time you might be wanting to put pictures or comments about anything that's happened so far this morning. Thank you, Silvy.